all. This is Dr. Mobeen Sayed from drbeen.com. Welcome to one more show. So, the discussion today is about the Israeli study that was published on this Tuesday, yesterday, I believe, that showed or demonstrated that the vaccine efficacy of the fourth dose, the booster, drops down to almost 10% within 2 weeks and starts dwindling after the fourth week. The only slightly good news, if it could be, is that the efficacy against severe disease stays relatively high till the sixth week. So it's kind of a sad situation that we have reached a point that we're talking about weeks and the efficacies. But still, relatively, that is a better news compared to no efficacy almost in 2 months. So I wanted to go over that study with you. In addition, today FDA is scrambling, and it's about 8-9 hours they had their meeting about their advisory panel, who's not making a recommendation today, but they are looking at Omicron BA2, the Israeli study with the vaccine efficacy, and there are some really um, concerning statements that are coming out of the FDA's. Um, so I would like to kind of look at those statements with you as well. And finally, also a third topic I want to cover in this talk today is the Moderna and Pfizer saying that the Omicron related vaccine will be ready or may be ready in August. And I wanted to show you that the same companies were bragging about the original vaccines to be developed within 2 days or 1 day or 2 hours. And all of a sudden, I think when they see that there is not enough money and the previous doses are still sitting out there, they are not willing to create more vaccines which are targeting Omicron. So let's look at all of this information together. So first of all, this is drbeen.com. In the description, there is a link that has such a low one-time price to get into Dr. Bean Club that you will be blown away. So check that link out. I think you would like it. Here are the references. This is just stat news looking at the FDA meeting today. So if you like it, see it. Otherwise, you can watch the whole meeting. I have the link to the meeting here as well. Then this is also stat news, but here, this is the study that we're going to talk about: protection by a fourth dose of BioNTech 162b2, that is Pfizer BioNTech, against Omicron in Israel. So we look at that. It's a large study. More than 1.2 million people were looked at during this study. So really good study, and sponsored by the Israel's Ministry of Health. This is US FDA then scrambling to figure out what to do next. And I think that what they are approaching, the way they're approaching, is incorrect. And they're trying to win an award to make such decisions. This is Reuters with the same discussion here, and there are more in here as well. So now let's go to the study. Here is the study itself, and here is my summary of it. So these are the gifts for the humanity. And here, this is the Israeli study published in New England Journal of Medicine, data from Israeli Ministry of Health. It is April 5th, 2020. That is when this was published. It is a summary. It's a retrospective cohort study. That study started looking at people on January 10th, and study finished for severe cases, or to observe the severe cases, by Feb 18th. And study looked at the infections, not the severe cases, but infection by March 2nd. So that is the duration of the study. So you might think that, hey, this is a small duration, but you would even be more surprised that the efficacy is within this duration dwindling. Now, this time frame, the January to now, is an Omicron dominant time frame. that means that the vaccine efficacy is really targeted towards Omicron, or lack thereof is targeted towards Omicron. What they did was they took 1.25 million people who were eligible for the fourth dose. That means they had the third dose, and then either their age or their comorbidities, they were eligible for the fourth dose. And their eligibility started from January 2nd. And actually, Israel started administering fourth dose on January 2nd. 51.8% of these folks were women. Now, how did they do the study? So this is one part in the study that can confuse when you are reading it or when I am reading it. So I wanted to clarify. What they did was they have three main groups. One cohort is the people with the fourth dose. So there are about 623,355 people who had the fourth dose, and they started observing them from day 8 from the fourth dose. And this group was called four dose groups, not groups. Why? Because then they observed them every week afterwards, and every week was considered a group. So within the fourth dose groups, there were multiple groups, a new group per week, and they would observe the severity in them, and they would observe the infection or rate of the incidence of the cases. So beautifully done study. Then they had, for control, for comparison, they had three dose group, those who did not have a fourth dose yet. The three dose group had the third dose at least 4 months before the March 2nd. So that means there could be third dose group, there could be people from December or November and so on. So that means there could be even before October or September too. So 4 months or 2 months or 3 months or 1 month before the January. Then there was a problem as well. Imagine those who are not yet eligible for the fourth dose, or who are not recommended for the fourth dose. Maybe they are healthier, maybe they are younger, maybe they have less comorbidities. So maybe there are confounding variables which make these two groups not comparable. Although they stratified, they did try to make sure that the people are comparable. Still, researchers did something very interesting, very clever. What they did was they took this group, the four dose group, and they used the same group as a control for themselves in the first 3 to 7 days of the vaccination. What does that mean? That means if you take me as a person and I have the fourth dose today, from today to 7 days, and I actually have a diagram here. So imagine I'm here and I got the vaccine here. So from today till 7 days, I am my own control. What happens to me during this time is probably not affected by the fourth dose yet, because it is going to ramp up after 7 days. Although it's not always true, the vaccine effect can start ramping up within 2-3 days, but 7 days is the standard. So after 7 days of the fourth dose, I become the fourth dose group. What is the benefit of doing this? Why am I my control? So they observed me for the first week and said, okay, this is what would happen as a control. And then they observed me from then on the next weeks, and they said, this is what would happen if you are fourth dose. The benefit of doing that is that now my comorbidities are equal on both sides. My diet, my environment, my social status, my socioeconomic status, my environment is exactly the same. Beautiful way of doing it. So back here, what they saw was that in the fourth dose group. There were 177,000 cases per 100,000. Cases I'm talking about, not severity, cases. In the three dose group, that was 628,976 people, there were 361 cases per 100,000. So almost more than double. And then internal group, that is the same fourth dose group, but in the very first 3 to 7 days of the vaccination, they had 388,000 cases per 100,000. So clearly more cases. So I got the fourth vaccine, and if you wait on me for 1 week, the fourth vaccine booster's effect is not yet there, and I may become more um, prone to become infected. So that is the groups. Now, it's a long, interesting paper. I want to give you the summary first here. Author said the three dose here in the poison analysis, the adjusted rate of confirmed infection, the adjusted rate, so they adjusted it in the fourth week. In the fourth week, after receipt of the fourth dose, was lower than that in the three dose group. So that is a good news. Three dose group had a higher case rate versus the fourth dose. Almost half, or almost the protection was double, and was lower than that in the internal group. So it was also better than people who just got the fourth vaccine dose and 3 to 7 days between that. However, this protection waned in later weeks. Do you know what later weeks here is? After 4 weeks. 4 weeks. So let me show you this. So I have written review figure number 2 over here because the software could not have too many images in it. So let's go to the PDF and look at the figure number 2. That one figure actually just tells us everything. Here is the figure. This figure shows there are two types of lines in here. On the bottom, the x-axis is the weeks. The y-axis is the adjusted ratio of either the infection or severity. The blue ones are infections and the red ones are severity or severe infections. Look at this. I could not believe it when I read this. Let me actually read you that and then show you this graph. Authors wrote, and of course, this is the data they're seeing. It's not some conspiracy they're causing. They said comparing the rate ratio over time since the fourth dose suggests that the protection against confirmed infection with the Omicron variant reaches a maximum. Look at the words here, reaches a maximum in the fourth week after vaccination. So here we are sitting thinking the vaccine should give us protection for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year life. And look at the sad words here, reaches a maximum in the fourth week after vaccination, after which the rate ratio decreases to approximately 1.1 by the 8th week. Almost becomes nothing. 1.1 means just a 10% efficacy. So now if we go back here, and in light of that paragraph, if you see here, let's look at the blue one. This is the infections. So here, blue one in the beginning, here, internal group. I got the fourth dose the very first 3 to 7 days. They're just observing me as an internal control. Week 2 becomes their first week or the second week. And here is the efficacy gone up. How much up? 1.5 times. Then week 3, efficacy went up even near 2 times better. Then it started going down. Look at the fourth. So they said it reached maximum on fourth week. Actually, it reached maximum on third week. And then fourth, after that, it started declining. The fourth week, it is down. Fifth week, further down, down, down. And week 8, which includes 1 week of the internal weeks, So basically, really, week 7, it is down to 1.1. If it is 1, that means there is no difference in fourth booster and the third dose vaccine, folks. 1.1 is 10% improvement. So it went down from 200% improvement to 10% improvement within, so I should say 100% improvement, double, to 10% improvement within 6-7 weeks. So this is not a sufficient story to say that it dwindles within fourth week. That's not a sufficient statement. The correct statement is in 2 months it's nothing. So the safe and effective, the effective part of fourth booster goes away. That's really sad. And then how about the severe cases? So that is, I told you in the beginning, that is some good news. Excuse me. And they only observed them till 18th of February, my birthday, and not beyond, because that is what made the correct sense for observing severe cases. So if you see here, the protection from severe cases actually went up almost double, then almost triple in the fourth week, then went down a little bit, and then went up as well, so 4.5 times. So by the 6th week, there was still protection from severe cases. But if you ask this question, that were the severe cases occurring, they were occurring with less ratio. And that is the basic study here. This graph actually shows everything. What does this mean? I'm going to go over the other images here as well, but what does this mean? This means if we are trying to protect ourselves from infection, which I have been saying for 2 years now, 1.5 years now, that it is actually almost impossible to protect ourselves from getting infected. But here I think they're talking about PCR confirmed symptomatic cases, hopefully symptomatic cases they're talking about. Every month a booster will be needed. The efficacy of this type with the vaccine is unheard of. And then, of course, even if we say that the side effects are rare, when you keep exposing a population every month, then you have just scaled up the side effects. You are causing it in more people. Number one. Number two, that immune system exertion that European Medicine Agency was talking about, that possibility becomes more real. That still is a theoretical concept. It is not in actuality observed. But we are just creating more potential for such things. So let's now look at the remaining parts for a second. So here is, sorry for this little tantrum by my software. So here is the table number 2 from the same PDF. What is interesting in here is this. This is the weeks, right? So here, the fourth dose group, week 1, week 2, meaning week 1 is week 2, the first week is internal group. So week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It really is not 2 months. It is actually 1 week, lesser than 2 months. Look at the efficacy here. Here is the actual factored efficacy compared to the 3-dose group as a reference. What is the efficacy? 1.1. And what is the confidence interval? 1 to 1.2. Nothing, no efficacy to 20% efficacy is the range. And it went down from 1.5 to 1.7, 1.5, 1.2. By 7th week, it's down to nothing. And for the internal control, meaning the same people, their first week compared to their remaining 7 weeks, or 8th week. First week, my first week of fourth dose versus my 8th week of the fourth dose. 0.9 to 1.1. Insignificant. 0.9 to 1.1, it crosses the unity. If you wanted to use this number, this would actually mean negative result. But we cannot use it. It is not significant because it crosses unity. So no efficacy. I compare to myself today, I got the fourth dose, my first week and my eighth week have no difference. Then severity. This is relatively better. Again, the same groups, excuse me, but they did not go for 8 weeks. They went up to 6 week, as I said before, till 18th Feb. And if you see the efficacy, this is the factor. The higher the number, the better it is. So 2.4 times you can say efficacy on the week 2. And 2.9, 3.5, 3.4, and 4.3. The number of cases here were in this group. Remember, every week was a group. So 2 million people, 18 cases of severity. You could say that it is rare and there is a protection, and that protection is about 4.3 times. So on the 3 dose group, you may have 4 times of this. So if it was 20, then about 80. So 75-ish numbers for the similar group. So this is still a better news. The question which is not answered, and it's not that they were cheating to not answer that, they just didn't have more weeks. I'm sure that they still can continue to observe, is how long will this continue? Will it wane as well, or will it continue? Now, I can give you one possible way of looking at it, and that is to look at the third dose and look at that. So, third dose, as much as they said it is 4 months into the dose, but it is 4 months from March. So that means some people were vaccinated with third dose in December, some in November, some in October, and some in September, and they were having 4 times greater number of severe cases. That means the fourth dose is going to behave similarly. So my conjecture is, which means I may be wrong, is that the booster for severe case protection might be every 3-4 months, and booster from infection protection will have to be every month or every third, fourth week. So, what did authors conclude? And again, authors' message to me seems politically correct. They are not trying to highlight that it wanes, they are trying to say it helps. And then the help is short lived. That is how they framed it. So I want to make sure that we look at how authors framed it. They said, overall, these analyses provide evidence for the effectiveness of a fourth vaccine dose against severe illness caused by the Omicron variant as compared with a third dose administered more than 4 months earlier. And again, please know this, that this 4 months is not a very true 4 months in the comparison, because 4 months from the date of March 2nd, several reports have indicated that the protection against hospital admission conferred by a third dose given more than 3 months earlier is substantially lower against the Omicron variant than the protection of a fresh third dose against hospital admission for illness caused by Delta. So essentially, what you read here is they're saying that with Omicron, the efficacy even for hospitalization continues to drop, while for Delta, that held up. So tell me this then. Would you then think that the same vaccine should be pushed more to say, you know what, we are seeing here that the vaccine is not working on Omicron, but hey, continue to get the boosters? That is what I think I was protesting today when I was looking at the FDA's brief. It was too long. I didn't look at all of that. There were a couple of interesting points. Peter Doshi from the BMJ, he was there. And then after Peter Doshi, there was a woman who presented her post vaccine injury. And it was a very impactful, at least to me, it was a very impactful message she had. Before them both, there was somebody else who was very, very high on vaccines help, and vaccines help. But I think we should have that balance to understand vaccines helped a lot. But here we are in a situation where 1.2 million people study is showing this vaccine against Omicron isn't working. So then they say in our study, a fourth dose appeared to increase the protection against severe illness relative to three doses that were administered more than 4 months earlier. Now, any folks here who would now protest that I said fourth dose isn't working, one, you see the data here. Secondly, today FDA said that it seems like these vaccines are not well matched to Omicron. And they use the word BA2, which I thought was sort of a cover your behind kind of a message, because this was going on with the Omicron as well. This is not just BA2. BA2 is a little more transmissible, agreed, but this was happening before. So now I want to show you a couple of more things here. This study and the discussion is done, but I want to show you FDA first, and then the vaccine companies' approach to trying to help us for Omicron. Let's say that we feel, or the vaccine companies and the FDAs and CDCs and NIH has projected these whole things to be very saintly. They are helping, they are saving, and I have 2 doses of Moderna. So yes, they're helping, saving. I agree with that. They're not doing that now. But I want to show you that sincerity to save population versus money. How is that playing out? So please give me a few more minutes of your time. Here, USF FDA advisors we need more COVID vaccine boosters. Need more COVID vaccine. US just asked for everyone above 50 to have the fourth dose booster. Canada just asked for the booster. Here is a country that just showed us the boosters results. So of course we scramble and we say, okay, fine, we being FDA. A panel sat down, look at this. This is something that I became a little concerned. Data presented to the panel showed that the vaccines lose much of their effectiveness in preventing infection from the Omicron variant, although they were better at preventing severe disease. Agreed, we just saw that. Again, sad part is we're talking weeks. That could mean the composition of future boosters may need to be tweaked to align with the new variants, FDA said. Did FDA just find out? So they are hanging their hat on this Israeli study and they were not seeing this happening before. That they said now we need better boosters. But I want to show you more. This this game sometimes make me sick. Look at this. This discussion today is a much larger discussion. It's a discussion for what do we do about the entire population. And what do we do when we think the virus has evolved further? Said Peter Marks, director of the FDA's Center for Biologic Evaluation and Research. Do you know what they're saying? My thinking is they are saying we would either go back to lockdowns, which they are recommending now if somebody is COVID positive. But what do they mean by entire population? Are they going to tell us that you all are mandated once again to go get the same boosters? Other countries are reaching a point to say, you know what, lift the mandates, finish it, done. Now we are in an endemic state. Even US states have, many of them have said, not majority, but many have said, we are in an endemic state. And here is totally disconnected messaging. What do we do about the population? Then I want to show you something else. here. I want to start from here. The co-founder of BioNTech designed the coronavirus vaccine it made with Pfizer in just a few hours over a single day. Good? This is December 12, 2022. We are patting ourselves on the back saying, you know what? One day I made this vaccine. So it is easy to make for these folks. Now let's see what Pfizer says now. Pfizer and BioNTech Omicron targeted vaccine delayed. Delayed to when? August. If the wave ends, that does not mean it can't begin again, he told Bild in video interview, adding that BioNTech was in a position to continue creating new vaccines as variants emerged if needed. However, there is a very interesting statement here. Delivery of Pfizer and vaccine to combat the Omicron variant was delayed by several weeks due to a slower than expected data gathering process, BioNTech chief executive Ugur Shaheen said. And then he said, I really don't see the situation as dramatic anymore, he said, referring to how the coronavirus would develop in the future. To me, it is very simple. If they were really that much caring for us, and the vaccines were the answers, and the current vaccines were not working, and we knew it for many, many months, then these companies that can make these vaccines and brag about it that I can do it in a day, why are they taking months, August? To me, it seems like they're saying, sell the previous doses, then we'll make you more. Or we just may not make you more because we're done. Let's look at Moderna too. So Moderna is not that saintly either. Moderna says, Moderna's groundbreaking, so this is December 19, 2020. Moderna's groundbreaking coronavirus vaccine was designed in just 2 days. Good. Now what do they say? Moderna CEO, Omicron specific booster could be ready by August. And what was the date on this one? 17 Feb. In 17 Feb, and we have the Omicron in December. So in February, they're saying by August. Feb, March, April, May, June, July, August. What kind of data collection is needed? They just need to sequence the Omicron to say, I can make it in a day. Go make it. So this is what is the story. There is a good and a bad news. Good news is that maybe for severity, vaccines are still efficacious. At least the data they show, the vaccine efficacy against severity continues to improve. Maybe it would continue to improve afterwards as well. But I think after 3-4 months, it would wane as well, as we saw the 3 booster dose group. And not so good news, or probably not entirely good news, is that within 7 weeks, infection efficacy finishes. So that is a discussion. I know that I'm going to be pushed back by our platform here, but this is the study. I had to discuss it. Do me a favor. If you like this work, please like, subscribe, and share. Support this work as well. There is a link in the description. You can buy a plan for Dr. Bean premium content on drbeen.com. There are additional 800 to 1,000 videos there, which are, I think you would like them. And the price is like you had 2 lunches and you bought. It's a one-time price. Or you can use Buy Me a Coffee, or you can use PayPal, or become a patron. I would really love if I can have some more patrons, even if it is $5 per month. to reach a point where I can become independent of YouTube like dependencies. So, with this, thank you very much. I will join you on the Chit Chat channel in a few minutes. Bye bye for now.